Australia, known as the lucky country, and like most Australians, we feel protected and secure, living our lives and sharing many special moments with friends and family. Australia has some of the best border protection policies, and as much as we tend to agree to disagree, politicians seem to be getting the job done and providing funding for our law enforcement agencies throughout the country. But one thing is missing: accountability for those men and women who take pride in putting on a uniform every day. A uniform that demonstrates they work for one branch of the emergency services. Police officers have a duty of care in protecting us as we go about our daily lives. But sadly, actions by some police officers of the Tasmanian Police Service towards members of the public are slipping under the radar. Tonight, we follow the story of a man who is fighting for justice. A man who alleges he was sexually assaulted whilst under the watchful eye of Tasmanian Police Service. What makes this story more disturbing is the perpetrator was in fact a Tasmanian police officer, and to top it all off is still on active duty, dealing with members of the community, people who are unaware the officer has committed this appalling attack. For the privacy and protection of the man's story you are about to watch, we have masked his identity. We would also like to advise some of the story is confronting and viewers' discretion is advised. It's a little after 9:30 and the streets are quiet throughout Launceston's CBD. There isn't much traffic on the roads and most people are at home feeling safe knowing they are protected under the watchful eye of the Tasmanian Police Service. But not all can feel safe and sleep soundly. This man, who we will call John for the purpose of keeping this man's true identity hidden, spends most nights lying awake and reliving an attack that shaped his life forever. An attack that allegedly occurred by an officer from the Tasmanian Police Service. So in your own time, can you tell me what happened when you were brought into the Launceston Police Station?
Well, I was brought into the area where the police detain you, where you were brought into the cell area, and I started to feel uncomfortable as the police had brought in two other males that were not like police or prison guards, and it was then that I lashed out at the two guys and hit them, and about 6 police officers grabbed me after that. They cuffed my hands behind my back and feet together, and they sort of cuffed me up like an animal on a stick, like, you know what I mean? They then took me to the cell and stripped me naked.
I know this has been a very difficult time for you, but can you tell me what actions did you think the police were acting inappropriately?
Yeah. I clearly remember that I was on my stomach and my legs were locked and I was all naked already. But they had my legs locked and I had one guy on each arm and one on each leg. And then they held me flat, and I do remember that I was held flat for a really long time. It was like they were waiting for someone else to come or something.
So by this stage, you were still laying face down and your face was being forced?
Yeah, I was like face down and my face was like filled with pressure from the force of these guys. And I was yelling, "Why are you doing this? What's going on?"
So what happened next? Did some of the officers let you come up for air?
No, they then were all in the room, and then it happened. They attacked me and I felt numb. And it seemed like forever, and then the last guy came off the back of me and I was horrified just what had just happened. And I like stood up and rubbed the back of my legs, and it took me ages to figure out what had just happened.
What a shocking act they committed against you, and I'm really sorry that that had happened to you.
It was a horrible ordeal and one that I keep reliving every day. And those cops can walk around perfectly fine. It's bullshit that morning when I woke up, I felt sick. There was like blood on my sheet, and I just sat there for a bit and folded it up. I then just sat there and looked up at the camera in my cell and said, I just want to live.
Now, did any of the prison guards check on you through the night at all?
Yeah, a couple of times, and one asked me, did I want to say anything, and I just said, I just want to live, mate, and that was it, really.
So when it became morning, what happened next?
I woke up and got myself together. They unlocked me and I couldn't believe it. All my charges, including the part where I attacked the guys when I came in to escaping custody, everything, I couldn't believe it. They were all dropped.
So no charges were laid against you at all?
Not a single one. They'd all been dropped. I was then released and free to go, and I went straight to my dad's place and just told him what had happened.
So what was your dad's reaction when you told him what had happened?
I was just in shock. And he just couldn't believe it, and just was upset that it had happened, I guess. I told Dad that some of these cops are corrupt and like well known to be corrupt, and it's at a higher level. I told Dad what had happened at my tattoo shop, and it led me to believe that the cops' actions were not justified.
Can you explain when you say the police actions weren't justified?
The night of the arrest, officers Bolton, Savage, and two other coppers came and visited me at my tattoo shop after I couldn't get inside because of the lock on the front door wasn't working. When those cops arrived, they told me I had to be out of Launceston CBD for 8 hours, and I said to them I ain't doing that.
So then what happened?
Then they told me to get in my car and drive, so I did. And it was then that they pulled me over on the corner of Bell and Wellington Street, and they tested me, and I asked the cop's name, who was with Bolton, and he said it was Forgery. I remember that name because it sounded weird, but they tested me for opioids and weed in my system.
So at this stage, did the police tell you what they were planning to do next?
They asked me to put my car down a side street, but I refused and left it on Wellington Street. I wanted it to still be visible from the main road. Then they put me in the car and took me to the LGH. And when I got to the LGH, there was already a copper by the name of Purdy there, waiting for me. They made me feel weird, so I refused the drug test. Then they called for more police to come.
So by now the police had called for backup. Were you then taken to the police station?
Yeah, Bolton got on the radio and said he was saying some weird stuff. By this time I was in the car and I was like freaking out, so I caused a bit of a ruckus in the car. And that forced the cops to pull over, and that's when I jumped out of the cop car and landed on the street. And I was starting to make a scene so that people would see what was happening and, like make sure people witness what the hell's going on.
Then what happens next?
The cops take me back to the station and drive me to the area of the cop station car park, where I get out and I'm processed by the station sergeant, who was Officer McKinnell at the time. I then asked the coppers who were all standing there if I was going to be alright, and none of them said anything to me. They just looked at me and stared.
So were you processed there and then?
Sorta. They took me to another holding cell, and that's when I saw two guys coming towards me that were not cops or prison guards. They were dressed in like hospital scrubs type things. It was then that I moved forward and began to hit them both because I was scared. I didn't know what was happening, and that's when it all happened. I was raped by them, and they all stood there and did nothing to prevent it.
During this incident, can you remember any of the police officers talking at all?
No, there was no talking by them. It was strange. I just remember Bolton being on my left leg and forcing his weight on me, and there was a knee to the back of my neck as I was face down.
The next day, you went to your dad's place. What happened there?
Yeah, well, I went back to my dad's and took a shower and made him stand guard. I was that in shock, and I was just feeling like shit. Dad then rang the police to speak to someone high up, but after him being put on hold for bloody 45 minutes, they said the commissioner was busy doing something in Hobart or whatever, and Dad came back to me and said that they can't get hold of the commissioner, so we'll just settle for an inspector copper. So I was like, okay, whatever. So then Officers McKinnell, who was the station sergeant from the night before when I came into the cop station, he and another officer by the name of Langshaw arrived. And when they did, it was weird that the officer from the station had arrived and not some other copper who wasn't known to the case, like didn't have a conflict of interest.
So did they try to detain you again?
Yeah, and I was like worried, like while I was giving my statement, and then when I went to get a glass of water, and their attitude towards me changed, and they thought I was going to become aggressive or something, which I wasn't, but their attitude completely changed real quick. I then became concerned as they moved towards me, so I jumped out of the window from the balcony and shattered my ankle. The ambulance came and I was treated for the ankle issue, but that's when the cops sent granddad to the older one, who I told what had happened the previous night when I was in custody, and granddad told me he would do everything that he could to get the evidence to help my story, but he just lied to me.
So as time went on, and I'm really sorry to ask this, but was a rape test kit completed?
Yeah, there was, and forensics completed the test, which indicated that there were traces of sperm found, but yet the coppers say there was no evidence that showed that. But I have the documentation to prove the test was done and that there were traces of sperm found. The officer, Hazelwood, got the report back from the forensics which showed that there were traces of sperm found, but the report given to her had more information on it. But the version that I was provided by Rights of Information has, of course, redacted all that crucial information. So the CCTV footage, one department says it's there on the video, while others, including TPS, have said it was recorded over. It just doesn't add up.
Well, no doubt, this incident has definitely impacted your life, and I'm sorry that you have to go through all of that. But let's hope that these police officers can be brought in for questioning and justice can be served. Once again, thank you so much for joining us today.
That as well, Kane. These coppers, they can't go around just doing this and expect to slip under the radar, but thank you for hearing me out and allowing me to share my story.
It's also important to mention that one of the officers who was involved with this case was transferred out of the Launceston Police Station to a station in Beaconsfield, further north of the state. And of course, before running this story, we investigated every part to the allegations and found throughout the large number of pages of reports and forensic documents, it's evident Tasmania Police were quick to blame the victim. What's more alarming is the fact that Tasmania Police tried to cover up all of this by changing their stories, changing statements, but most of all, making the victim feel bad about coming forward and making a report. This is not how a police department should operate and leaves the question, what happens next for the victim? It's time that this perpetrator is brought to justice and for the higher authorities within Tasmania Police Force, including the likes of the Police Commissioner Darren Hines, to take action and correctly investigate this matter. It appears that a level of denial and corruption continues to plague Tasmania's police service, and until this and many other cases similar to the one you watched tonight are taken seriously, laws will only continue to be broken, but not by the people, but by those who are sworn to protect us. Police officers need to be held accountable, and the state cannot function on high levels of corruption and serious crimes being committed by the hands of our police force. Of course, we will continue to follow this story and see it through to the very end. If you require further information or support on issues raised in this program, please contact Lifeline on 13 11 14.